Welcome to the GICH Informational Webinar. This is Chris Higdon with the Georgia Municipal Association, and I am joined today with Joe Fretwell from the Department of Community Affairs and Jermaine Durham from the University of Georgia. I will present the program overview today. Jermaine will follow that with application procedures, and then Joe will give us some community success stories. The GICH initiative helps communities improve their quality of life and economic vitality through the development of locally based housing and revitalization strategies. The beauty of GICH is that it's focused on allowing communities to create the strategies that they need for their particular community. During the process of participating in GICH, communities will create a community housing team, develop new ideas about meeting local housing needs and enhancing community development, as well as learning about approaches and resources to improve housing stock, and move forward to produce a community housing plan and take steps towards implementing the plan. Initially, GMA was contacted by the National League of Cities to be part of a pilot program to help communities with their housing needs. This turned into GICH, what eventually became a long-standing partnership between GMA, the Department of Community Affairs, UGA's College of Family and Consumer Sciences, and University of Georgia Public Service and Outreach. Georgia Power has been a founding sponsor and has provided continued financial support throughout the program. GICH also has in-kind program partners that include UGA Archway Partnership, UGA Carl Vinson Institute of Government, and UGA Extension. The program is also partially funded by a USDA Rural Development RCDI grant. The GICH initiative itself is a 3-year program. This includes 2 retreats per year with facilitated work sessions, informative workshops provided by experts in the areas of housing and community development, host cities coordinate housing tours, report backs from communities, as well as networking and collaborating with other GICH communities. The retreats are held twice per year where all 15 participating communities meet to plan and learn while sharing ideas. Retreats are held in different locations throughout the state and last for 2 to 3 days during the first year and 1.5 to 2 days in the second and third years of the program. No registration fees are required. General session topics may include areas such as code enforcement, urban redevelopment, housing assessments, land bank authorities, air properties, fair housing, blight, neighborhood revitalization, and tax credit properties. As mentioned, the GICH retreats move throughout the state. Each host community coordinates a housing tour showing successful housing initiatives within their community. In addition to the workshops provided by experts, the GICH initiative includes facilitated work sessions. A facilitator is assigned to each community to assist with drafting a strategic housing plan. In addition, report backs from communities of their progress during the 3-year program will be shared with others during the retreats.
Hello, this is Jermaine Durham with the University of Georgia, and over the next 12 slides we're going to discuss the GICH application process. Prior to submitting an application, each community should put together a GICH housing team, and we'll talk a little bit about what we are going to be looking for and who should be a part of each of the GICH housing teams. Communities are going to also want to identify the housing needs within your community, and we'll talk a little bit about what that means. And also you want to identify the funding sources for the team's travel expenses. There are no application or registration fees associated with GICH, but there are other expenses that come along with attending the retreats, and we'll talk in detail about what those expenses are. And also it is required that each community submit a letter of intent prior to the application. And there are details in the application about what this letter of intent should include. So GICH applicants should be representatives of the entities provided in this slide. So this could be an incorporated municipality, a county government, a public housing authority, or the combination between a city and a county government. Over the years, the lead contact has been from development authorities, the public housing authority, planning and zoning directors, city managers, or someone appointed by the mayor or commissioners. Whomever this person may be, the applicant needs to ensure that the local government is supportive of the application. Section A of the application captures the general information about the applicants. Lines 1 through 2, you should provide the name and address of the organization applying for participation. The applicant organization should be the lead agency or the fiscal agent of the community housing team. The applicant organization must be a city or county government or public housing authority, or a combination of these three entities. In lines 3 through 8, you should provide the name and contact information of the primary person and the secondary person that will be the contacts for your GICH community housing team. In line 9, you indicate which person will be the team leader. The team leader is expected to be committed throughout the full 3-year life of the program, and is responsible for coordinating team meetings, work schedules, fiscal matters, and to generally keep the team on task and motivated. In section 10 of the application is where you're going to provide the funding sources and the amounts allocated for travel and lodging expenses. There is no charge to participate in GICH. However, communities must cover the travel and lodging costs for its housing team members to participate in the retreats. On average, most communities allocate anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000 per year for the travel costs. As I mentioned, costs will consist of travel to the 2 retreats that are 2 to 3 days. The fall retreat is usually 2 days, and the spring retreat is 3 days. And so this is going to require some overnight stay, as well as considering the distance from your location to where the GICH retreat will be held is also a cost that you want to have to take into consideration. Lunches will be provided during the retreats, but not dinners. Most hotels that we identify with this GICH retreat will have rooms, offer continental breakfasts. For initial planning purposes, assume that conference hotel rooms may cost anywhere between $100 to $125 per night. The cost for the first year will be somewhat more than the second year and third years due to more retreat work days. Your travel costs will vary depending on the number of team members attending the distance, as well as the distance the retreat is from your community. Other costs that you may want to be aware of, but that you don't necessarily have to include in your funding sources, are costs that are going to be incurred by the community housing team during its work outside of the retreats. And this can be costs that may be associated with the monthly meetings that your GICH housing team will have, if there's food provided, or if there are any activities or initiatives that are taking place while you are a part of the GICH program that may be related to the housing plan that you are developing. Section 11 of the application gives you an idea of who should be on your GICH housing teams. This can include citizens, local government officials, local housing officials, financial institutions, members from the business community, Chamber of Commerce, any colleges or universities, members from the school system, and many others. It is important that the housing team is aware of the needs of the community, possibly already meeting on a regular basis to address the needs even prior to submitting the application. Upon applying for the GICH participation, each member should be aware of the application contents and have an opportunity to provide input. In addition, it is really important for all members to sign the application, indicating their knowledge of the application and willingness to participate. This slide provides examples of some other potential team members that you can have on your housing team. This could be anything from the Habitat for Humanity, representatives from churches and other nonprofit organizations, regional commissions, and even employers in the area. Section 12 of the application is asking for evidence of local government support, and this could come in the form of any attached letters or local government resolutions and other actions, maybe even memorandums of understanding that have been signed between the GICH housing team and the local government. Section 13 and 14 are asking applicants to describe the primary housing issues facing the community and also the housing activities in the community that are currently underway. And housing issues can be a wide range of issues. This could be affordable housing or blighted housing in your community. This could also entail vacant properties that the community may be focusing on addressing, but be specific about the housing issues that are taking place in your community. Also, we want to know about any housing activities that are currently underway. Are there code enforcement initiatives that are currently taking place? Are there home buyer education that may be already in place or being implemented in the community? Section 14 allows for you to elaborate on that. Finally, Section 21 is going to ask you to briefly describe why your community wishes to be a part of the GICH program and what do you expect to get from being a part of GICH, and try to be as specific as you can. These expectations may change or evolve as you move forward in the GICH program, but this section allows for us to get an idea of what you are looking for and what you're looking to get out of being a part of this program. Section 22 of the application is for communities who have previously applied to the GICH program but were not accepted. And this section provides communities an opportunity to explain why your community is ready to participate in the initiative this year. This section does not apply to first-time applicants. So if this is your first time, you do not have to fill out Section 22. But what we're looking for are for applicants to briefly describe the activities and efforts that you have taken to build a dedicated and sustainable team leadership and to work together as a collaborative group since your last application or site visit. If necessary, you are able to, or you may attach one additional sheet to respond to this section. Section C of the application is where you will provide the certification and acknowledgement of responsibilities. There's three areas of GICH teams that are really important to being successful. One being the organization. The housing team must include a broad community representation and diversity. This is really helpful when identifying issues in the community, as well as providing help in addressing the issues that are in the community. Attendance and participation, dedicated team member participation on the housing team at the biannual retreats and the local meetings is vital for meaningful facilitated discussion and developing and implementing an effective housing plan. And finally, the product. As we mentioned earlier, this housing plan and the housing strategies that are developed by each GICH team are the products that we are hoping to develop as you move through the program. In Section C, finally, this is where you will provide the signature from the official representative of the applicant that certifies the information that is provided in the application, and the official representative could be whoever is in leadership of the primary organization that is applying for the GICH program. So just some tips on the application. First thing is cohesiveness. Preparation is key. So your GICH team should at least meet once prior to applying for the GICH program, and several times before, if you are chosen or selected as one of the finalists prior to your site visit. But cohesiveness is really important in being a strong GICH team, and it's one thing that we are looking for when we are scoring applications. Another thing is diversity, showing that there are multiple people involved in your GICH initiative. You may not fulfill all of the areas that were, or all of the individuals presented in the previous slides may not be representative, but we are looking for as much diversity as possible. You also want to have the team that is right-sized, that do not need all types of team members, but enough to be effective in addressing whichever housing issues that you have identified. And you also want to make sure that your project is right-sized, meaning the housing initiative should be large enough that it will is something that can be addressed over a 3 to 5 year period, but not be too large where it is well beyond the scope of the GICH housing team and the other entities that are a part of the GICH initiative. And finally, consider home and away teams. One of the main questions that we receive is, should the entire GICH team attend the retreats? And there are many that do, but oftentimes GICH communities will send a delegation to the retreats, who gather the information and bring that back to the larger team in the local area. So you may want to consider taking this approach when you are in the GICH program. So this slide gives you an idea of how we are going to be scoring the GICH applications. We look at 5 different areas, one being the team, and this is the number and appropriate representation from groups in the community, and we score this with 10 points. Evidence of support, this is a appropriate financial support, either the resolutions or support from local government, as well as some of the dedicated staff from other entities that are going to be participating. This is also scored by 10 points. Also being able to clearly articulate the housing issues that are taking place in the community that the GICH team wants to address. This is also 10 points. And also past housing activities and steps that are currently being taken to address the housing needs in the area are also awarded 10 points. And finally, expectations of participation, being clear and detailed description of why you why this team wants to be a part of the GICH program, and what are some of the goals that you hope to achieve by being a part of GICH. This slide provides a schedule of events that are really important for GICH communities to be aware of. Following today's informational webinar, we encourage interested communities to visit the GICH booth in the exhibit hall at the Georgia Municipal Association's annual convention in Savannah. This will take place between June the 21st and the 25th. The letter of intent, which is outlined in the instructions of the application, are going to be due on June the 28th. If you take a look in the application instructions, it gives details into what we are looking for with regard to a letter of intent. The final application deadline, which the applications will be submitted via email, is July the 26th. Site visits to the finalist communities will take place in late August, and once we determine those final communities, we will arrange the dates for site visitations. The selection announcement will take place at the Department of Community Affairs annual conference, and this will be held in LaGrange, Georgia, between October the 15th and 17th. The pre-retreat orientation meeting will take place late October, and this will be with the 2020 cohort of GICH communities. The first retreat of 2020 will take place in February. We have yet to determine the dates for that, and the second retreat of 2020 will take place in September.
This is Joe Fretwell with the Georgia Department of Community Affairs, and over the next few slides I'm going to highlight a few success stories to exemplify the types of initiatives that GICH has facilitated at the local level. Many of these success stories have been made possible by incentives offered to GICH participants and alumni to support applications to some of DCA's primary housing programs. The competitive advantage offered to GICH teams has led to an investment of more than $361 million of state housing resources in GICH communities since the program started in 2004. You see some examples of investment in 2018 on the slide. GICH communities received more than $5 million in Community Home Investment Program funds, which support the rehabilitation and construction of affordable owner-occupied homes in communities. More than $14 million in competitive low-income housing tax credit financing for development of affordable multifamily rental housing. Close to $9 million in Georgia Dream down payment assistance and affordable mortgages supporting 453 first-time home buyers in GICH communities, and nearly $8.5 million in community development block grant funds for local housing and community development initiatives. Here's an example of how a GICH team and the local government in Washington, Georgia worked to leverage two different DCA programs to revitalize a neighborhood corridor. So the first year, local officials were awarded a CDBG grant to clear vacant and blighted structures, pave new sidewalks, and update sewer lines and infrastructure to prepare for new housing development. The following year, the city received a CHIP grant from DCA to develop several new affordable single-family homes on the land that had been redeveloped. GICH has also helped many communities by facilitating local housing condition surveys with the use of survey instruments designed by the University of Georgia's Housing and Demographic Research Center. The city of Pembroke's GICH team was one of the first to complete a survey of all housing within city limits. The GICH team partnered with GICH staff at the University of Georgia and student volunteers from nearby Georgia Southern University to log any existing structural deficiencies present across all housing units within city limits. The findings of the study presented evidence that 24% of structures in town had at least one major structural defect. Since completing the housing assessment, the Pembroke GICH team has mapped its findings to prioritize specific corridors through comprehensive planning and urban redevelopment planning where a large number of housing defects exist. Having exact quantifiable data on housing conditions has improved the city's ability to implement its housing work plan through grants from the Home Depot Foundation and State Farm in support of home repairs and neighborhood revitalization, state financial support through CHIP grants and the Housing Tax Credit Program, as well as private investment from GICH team members in affordable housing development. The Albany GICH team has focused specifically on code enforcement and blight removal through what it calls Fight Albany Blight, or FAB. Fight Albany Blight takes a multi-pronged approach to addressing blight and significant code violations in target neighborhoods through activities that include structural repairs to homes inhabited by individuals who lack the resources to make critical repairs to roofs, siding, or porches, waste removal and mowing, identification and boarding of vacant or abandoned buildings, as well as demolition or redevelopment of vacant lots or boarded up homes, code enforcement that's targeted so that individual homeowners who lack resources to make home repairs are not penalized. This occurs through ongoing community meetings and community involvement in the code enforcement process. City staff and GICH team members have also partnered with student volunteers from local colleges and universities to conduct neighborhood cleanup days, and the GICH team also created a land bank in 2017 to preserve housing and promote home ownership in some of these target areas. Thank you for your interest in the GICH program and for attending today's informational webinar. If you have more specific questions after the webinar, please direct those to Jermaine Durham, the Executive Director of the GICH program, either by email at jermaine.durham@uga.edu or by phone at 706-542-4949. Application forms and all relevant information are available online on the GICH program's website. Please reach back out if you have specific questions, and thank you again for your time.